Greetings and salutations, everyone. Welcome back to the Inn of Planar Crossroads. And as always, welcome back to our Around the Hearth discussions. We are going to be discussing, this time, we will be discussing a kind of creature or something along that line that you can use that is Lovecraftian theme, since this is coming out in October. And then we're going to be employing that type of creature or encounter in an encounter design next chat that you will see in 2 weeks from when this one's released. This should all come out in October, everything going according, so you should have it in time for any kind of Halloween game you run. So, before we get into that, let's do some quick announcements. So, this, as far as I know, we should have, if not everything done and sent out for the winners, that should all be taken care of in the past, for Past Me. So Past Me should have that done. Well, it's Future Me in this recording, but it's Past Me when the recording comes out. So it's kind of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey on which me is going to get it done. But one of the me's is going to get it done. So one of the me's will get done the sending out of the dice, as well as organizing, hopefully, a one-shot for people that are interested. We need at least 3 people to play, but I'm pretty sure that we could get 4 or 5. So, there you go. This is coming out in October, so if all goes according to plan, there may be a collaboration type of game that I end up running for a certain studio that's on a certain avenue. So
what?
Yeah. So watch for that on their channel if we end up getting it organized right.
Yes.
I think that's everything for now. I think since I'm doing the Adventure Academia, I'll do most of the weekly type of updates on that. So that's what I've got. It was less than 5 minutes, but I don't know how much less. So go ahead, Dan. You tell what you're doing in your spiffy clothes.
I know. Hello, everybody. It's Dan from Avenue Studios, and Kristen wants to say hi. Now she can say hi.
Okay.
She's here.
I'm coming. Hi.
Hi.
We just got back.
Hey.
For those who watch Bomb Squad on our show, Togard just got married, the player.
Yes.
So we just got back from a wedding. These boys.
More than just married.
Yes, yeah, they're expecting their first child as well.
First comes love, then comes marriage.
Yep. Then comes baby in the baby carriage. Anyways, behind Kristen, oh, maybe I should hide that, is Pathfinder 2e box, because we are right now running a live stream in Pathfinder 2nd edition, doing Outlaws of Alkenstar every Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. So you can join us for that every other week. And on the off weeks, we're doing all kinds of stuff. Kristen and I are building Monsters in Open Legend, and we'll eventually be building a whole one-shot. So you'll watch us build the whole one-shot, and then I'm going to run it as a live stream with a bunch of people. So join us for that on Wednesdays, 9 p.m. We're always live streaming. And you can find us on YouTube and podcasts and Rumble. And that's about it. I'm ready to relax after a good wedding and talk about some scary monsters. So,
And I'm going to make sure the babies are in bed.
There we go.
So-
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye and good luck.
Levi says good luck.
Thank you.
So that's us.
Okie
Also, I'm
dokie.
going to light my pipe because it went out.
All right, so those are announcements. Let me see. Levi, did you have a shout out for this time or spotlight?
So I'm going to shout out a specific video that is meshed in with some things we have personally talked about otherwise. It is Kohdok's video on can you play Dungeons and Dragons with only things found at the dollar store. Making
yeah.
a very nice mishmash of stuff. I personally, this is another one. Hey, they're bigger, but
All right,
neat stuff.
Yeah.
That's all. I think that popped up in my history just the other day, and I haven't watched it yet. So
Oh,
Nice.
nice.
that's
It's real interesting. It's a lot of
Awesome.
fun, like, hey, here's accessible gaming. The concepts aren't just necessarily applied to D&D. I would contend for games like Pathfinder and Open Legend, it would work better because you have more full access to the rules than you do for D&D to play with minimal. Also, if you like trading card games, great channel to discuss that.
There you go.
But that's a good, fun video. The answer is yes, but the best part about the video is the creativity and the specific methods he uses to get there. And I think it's a fun video. And I hope you noticed I sent it to you over Discord.
I did. I clicked over to it while you were talking so that people could see what his logo what his picture looks like anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So, Kohdok.
Kohdok.
The barbarian. Oh, wait. Maybe. He may have made a barbarian named Kohdok.
Yeah, but you're thinking of Tulok the Barbarian, who is a person who does other things.
That is true. There is a Tulok, and there's a Kohdok. No relation, I guess.
As far as I can tell. Anyway, around it. Fun video. How to make... it came up in part because in a group I had for a long time, we had a lot of fun little budget things. Like we would use Sharpies on rubber ducks to make our tokens for our characters. We used sari pieces for different minions and whatnot that we were fighting. Those little colored penguins. We had a larger duck that would be any behemoth-sized monster.
That's right. That's where the ducklich came from.
Yeah.
The ducklich.
Yes.
That's
Watch
awesome.
our. It might be in the bloopers of our chicken race video, or it might be something to watch out for in the future because I don't know if it's actually in there yet. So if it was in there or if it's been released as a blooper, but it's going to be released at some point. So
But yeah, fun video. I also like trading card games.
Yeah.
So fun channel.
Yeah, on a rabbit trail, the Digimon trading card game seems to have some really interesting, interesting mechanics to it if you are into that. But that's beside the point. We need to go ahead and get into this because the call's ticking away. So, sit on down with us, light a pipe if you like, and grab your preferred beverage while we discuss a Lovecraftian creation from the Yog-sothian Shub-nigguroth universe. So there you go. All right. So did you guys have any specific ideas? Oh, framing for people that are watching. So we decided, since it's not explored as much as I think it probably should be, we're discussing a deep south type of inspiration for this monster. And that can be Louisiana. I suppose you could branch into Mississippi, maybe even Georgia if you want to, or in Alabama, but somewhere on that Gulf Coast type of thing. I don't know if you go all the way to Florida, but right there in that Louisiana bayou type of setup, that's what I was thinking. So down in there, and in that Cajun and Creole type of setup. So, did you guys have any specific things that came to mind for you, or did you want me to kind of set some mental stuff up for everybody?
So I have a couple different, obviously not finalized out into the end monster, but a couple different starting points of interesting, creepy things that could be fun to go with. So I think one of the things that is intimidating in a strange way is how fast the bodies of dead creatures are peeled off to leave bones. Just as it's a thing. Actually, researchers down in those areas will leave animals outside to clean out the bones to be able to study that easily without using other methods to get it that way. It's just all natural.
Yeah.
I think something that would be really interesting would be something swarm related, but I love the idea that the first signs you see of it are the bones coming back.
Oh, interesting. So kind of like a miasmic type of thing going on.
It clears away all the basic flesh, but it leaves some kind of coating or runes or something or other. And the bone, the dead bones start coming back into the main civilization area. and you know that the source is the swamp.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay. So now, because he was also afraid of math, he brings up non-Euclidean a lot.
Yeah.
Many people are afraid of math. But the thing is, I think it would be really fun to actually work in a set of, like, trees that actually warp space around them to make it so that way the walking trails are literally non-Euclidean. So that way any internal sense of measurement and direction and landmarks literally no longer work. But it would also be a neat puzzle. Because they are actually solvable with some math knowledge.
Interesting.
Okay.
I think that one's harder for us to fully flesh out, but I just think if you're running a Lovecraftian game, look into actual non-Euclidean geometries, and it can be an interesting puzzle for your players to get them stuck in swamps.
Yes. And swamps kind of lend themselves to those winding... Like, for those of you that haven't been down either to Louisiana or out in the woods recently, actual woods, you can walk around and... I don't mean like a park. You could go into the woods and literally get lost in a single acre if stuff's thick enough, because your head gets turned around. And it's that's an interesting idea to build off of too. That idea of being lost, but not in a you're not lost in a big huge area. Maybe you just get lost in that one area, and because of the way that it's non-Euclidean, you keep coming back around to the same spot that is the only stable thing from which other things are warping around, which would be, in this case, those trees. Those trees are warping things around them. So are we thinking then, ooh, there's the monster called a shard, or a sard. It is from I first saw it in Pathfinder 1E. It's a really kind of demonic tree type thing. So we have this swarm idea that we're going with. Perhaps those swarms are the trees themselves sentient then? Would we go with that?
I guess I had imagined the trees as not being malicious. I was... In a way that a lot of Lovecraftian stuff is not, like, some of the broader stuff is more like this, there's just cruel things in this universe walking through and you get destroyed.
Right.
I was keeping the trees in their normal sense of they're just growing and existing as they do, but they're warping the world around themselves. Though, if we want to tie these two into, it would be really interesting if whatever the swarm beast is hides and lives in the trees, and that's what corrupted the trees. Is that part? I think that might have been where you were.
Yeah. So you have like the insects in the tree. So that would mean that the trees wouldn't necessarily be the things shifting reality. They're simply the focal points that the swarm returns to as its own place. It would be... I
was imagining it would still warp reality when they're not there because of their leftovers and their, like, presence in it. That it would be like almost talismans made by them.
You could also...
Because they would make their hive there.
Yeah.
I have not necessarily a wrench to throw in this, but just a thought. Because as soon as we started talking about this in Discord, I thought about our House of the Rising Sun discussion, which kind of had that same vibe. Just throwing it out, what if the focal point, because if you're talking about, it's always, there's this radius that's always affected by it, by this distortion. If the radius is... if you can find it, or you, no matter where you go, you always find yourself back to this specific place. And in my head, it was just the House of the Rising Sun, which is actually not a place. It's actually some kind of Cthulhian monstrosity that's consuming you through your primal desires, if you will. I don't know. That was just the first thought that came to me.
Well, I see where you're going. The whole mansion thing. And remember when we talked about it, there was this we talked about it, how it was spreading out. You gave your players an aerial view of it, and each session you would kind of give them a new map, and it would update to show how the tendrils are coming out. They're not tendrils, they're roots.
Yeah.
Now,
That's cool.
I can't claim full uniqueness of this idea. The idea that is building up in my head now that we're talking about those different things. There is a anime, and I'm going to look it up while we talk so the people can see it. Ghost Stories is an anime, and it's not a particularly amazing one, but it's of average quality for about the time that it came out. And most of the stories are very... No, it's not Ghost Stories, it's something else. Well, shucks. There's an anime, and I'll try and find it while we're talking. And it is not particularly amazing, but there were some standout episodes. One of those episodes took inspiration from the Winchester house, which, the lady was constantly building onto it because of stuff that she thought was trying to get her and things like that. But what I'm interested in about it is that in that episode, there was a ghost, and it was down beneath, under the house or within the house, because they had built this entire house around a yard, an actual small little vineyard, small little acre vineyard or something like that, with a house in the middle of it. That this demented guy that was obsessed with living forever would kill people and bathe in their blood to live forever type thing. But the house itself acted like a maze for that to get there, and for you to have to get through to get to him. And he's the ghost that everybody was building to keep confused. Building on the building to keep confused. You could build on that visual idea to mix in what we're talking about. So you have this swarm that continues to go out, and it finds its way out of the maze because it's not bound the same way that a more physical type of threat would be. But because of the way this plantation owner, I guess, is what we would build off of, is working. This house is like a cage for it, and someone has opened it up. Someone's been digging around in the house, and that's why the swarm is able to get out now, or something like that. And the swarm has lived for centuries, or for however long you want. And the trees were actually planted as a gateway. They were maybe seeds from a far star to act as a gateway. Seeds from Calistron, or whatever the star is for the king in... for...
Yellow?
the Pharaoh. It's not the king in yellow, is it?
Okay.
For Haster. Who's
Oh, okay.
Haster's star out there. Castravel, I think it is. Maybe it's from there. And it's because he is the king in yellow, he has no own physical form. It's an aspect of him trying to come through and visit this area.
Oh, I kind of like the idea that part of the reason it didn't get out before is because this house... I think you might have meant this and I missed it, as you were saying. Like, the effects of, inward warping were already happening on the house. So anyone who got to the house couldn't leave. And whoever got stuck there eventually started digging around and broke them out.
Yeah, so we talked about...
The madness was actually a way for the monster to try and escape.
Their own madness fed into that? Fed the tree. Madness feeds the tree. And then it draws out, so that your own sanity breaking draws you closer to it instead of making you go crazy and go further away from it type of situation.
That's... yeah.
I can see that. Yes.
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 And clarify, I do now have in my head at least one variant of non-Euclidean geometry that should work for this.
Sweet.
I don't know the name for it, but I can see how the diagram... It's actually, I think the game I want to reference for this is Asteroids.
Okay.
You know how anytime you go out the screen, you pop out on the other side on the same screen?
Yes.
And then you have the thick woods of the swamp to make it so that way as you pop through that barrier point, you cannot see the house still. So you can't tell when you swapped over to the other side of the property.
That's interesting. I wonder if the house is something... So we've got the woods around the house, and we got to have it to where the adventurers go there for some reason. So perhaps they're sent there as an investigatory thing, maybe insurance investigators or something like that. Could be that.
Missing person.
Yeah, missing person. And that could be what it motivates it.
Or skeletons.
Or skeleton. Oh, yes.
That's true.
That was part of the reason why I was liking the idea of those.
Right.
The first layer of the bugs was that you would see those skeletons and you would think that was the problem, and you would be sent to go find the source of them and stop it.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize that the thing that that causes those skeletons is scarier than the skeletons themselves.
I know
so in this case...
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Levi.
I was just going to say that, like... I'm assuming in a similar sense that they are, like, warped by these eldritch beings, that the bones are able to be sent outside of the catching point.
Right.
Okay. I found the anime for those that want to look it up. It is Ghost Hunt, episodes 18 through 21, called The Bloodstained Labyrinth. And it is about what we're kind of talking about. And we could either make the house itself... I feel like the house is more of a seal for the evil. You think?
Yeah, and at a visual central point.
Right.
Okay. And so they're finding all of the Haster's kind of manifesting. Oh, but he needs flesh to manifest. He needs to consume. He needs that material to be able to build himself.
Cool.
Imagine if there's just like a mound of flesh filling the basement.
Well, that's the
and
beauty.
The basement has that like larger on the inside than the outside aspect. If you go in and there's just an entire maze of ripped apart flesh.
So, in the anime, there is the whole Winchester type of house is built around and encases this thing, so no sun gets in, no nothing. But it's got actual a vineyard in there that's not working anymore. Obviously, it's all dead, and a small cabin in there that the whole house has been built around. So, you may be able to have that mound in there, and maybe it'd be interesting if you could play with it. So we're talking, I guess the monster we're trying to discuss here is an aspect of Haster, trying to reach into this world from his star in Castrovel. Or I think it's Castrovel. You can correct me in the comments.
I'll pull it up too, because I'm not as familiar as you guys are.
So, I try to listen to Lovecraft's catalog of short stories every year. The Haster might be trying to do that. Now, Haster's not necessarily evil. He's just above humanity. So, he's often characterized as evil, but that's kind of wishy-washy when it comes to Lovecraftian
I think it would be more fair to say that he feels evil.
Yeah, to us,
more
he's
out
evil.
of like apathy and destructive existence.
So he's trying to get into this world, or he's trying to project an aspect of himself into this world. That's key. You don't actually have him himself coming, because the PCs can't do anything about that. Not if they can in your world if you're doing it that way, but they can't do that if it's true to the Lovecraftian lore. So you can change it in your game if you want to. but it's probably best for such a powerful entity to just have an aspect of itself coming, similar to the idea of the Call of Cthulhu, and that aspect not being fully formed of Cthulhu coming out of that door. So you've got this space here, and maybe this is because you can go with a swamp witch idea if you want to, or you can make it older than that and make it like a stone, a sacrificial stone that the house encases or something. Or the trees themselves are the offering places where these old rituals were done. So I do like the tree idea that Levi's started with, because that lets you build out and have a narrative connection to the outside world. That plant life.
Sorry, go ahead. I was thinking about something because I was just reading some of about Haster, and he's referred to as sometimes the shepherd too. And I like the idea of this, like, to relate it to the world. I know we're kind of doing the setting and almost the encounter before the monster itself, which is interesting. But the shepherd being, if we're doing with the trees, it's almost like this cyclical thing. Like, it could almost be a mythology for this place. Like, every couple hundred years, it's the shepherd coming to reap flesh. Like, it's time for the stock to be butchered, if you will.
That's fair.
He's not visiting. He's just like, it's like, oh yeah. It's this part of my region's tithing. It's snack time.
You know, we could tie that in even deeper, because remember how I said, you know, in the anime there was the vineyard under there. He's coming for his wine.
Oh, that's good. And it needs to be steeped for so many years to be good.
Yeah, he's coming back for his wine, and they're tearing away the flesh to nourish the you can either go with a swarm itself, or you can go with he's reaching out with this miasma to pull away the flesh, to feed the flesh and blood, to feed his vineyard that needs no sun, lightless growths that need no sun to make the sweetest of wines. So
I like that too, because it's very Lovecraftian, and like what you guys were saying, removing some of the evil of it. There's no sense of good or evil with this being. It's just what he does. Yeah.
And it can be signal, because Haster's very tied to Castrovel. Let me make sure I'm on Haster's page. I can find it.
Yeah.
He's very tied to that star. You could have it to where that star's gotten brighter, and anybody with mythos or occult lore or something like that training can kind of heard murmurings about it. He uses the yellow signs, king in yellow type of thing. So I think that'd work well. I think that'd work real well for a foreshadowing, especially if you incorporate this into another discussion, another campaign, I mean, where you're having it set up that way, where you're putting this Lovecraftian thing into something you've already been playing. So we've got this monster stripping away flesh and blood. Now, we can't discuss specific monster things of how to build it, because we do not know what system that you're playing. So you, viewer, will have to kind of work some of that around. If you are using like Pathfinder, there's already Haster in Pathfinder, or the avatar of Haster in Pathfinder, but he is very strong. So
yeah,
you
well,
definitely
and there are
want to...
swarm mechanics.
So,
right.
You could do if you're wanting the PCs to, if this is more like Cthulhu but it's heroic, you could have the swarm be very much be something that is beatable, and you can use those swarm mechanics with like Sturges or something like that to incorporate that. So mechanical discussion now, I guess. That's a way to do it, especially if you want to focus in on the blood portion, and you can just have that it drains away all the flesh as well. That could also work.
Or you could have it that it literally just brews the blood into Haster's wine.
So it...
Depending.
Well, yes, you could do that. You wouldn't need the grapes underneath, so you'd have to switch around your theming a little bit, unless you just wanted that. Maybe the grapes are a holdover from when the those worshipping the trees are using the trees as an offering place would drink of eat of those grapes and drink of those grapes, but now it's been enclosed, so they can't.
What if the trees are the barrels to brew the wine?
I was kind of thinking the same thing, actually.
There you go.
Nice.
And that's why they distort reality, because they were planted from a tree of Hasters, and they don't need sun because they're from Castravel. They're from his star, far away, and they don't need the sun to grow. And so you pour it into these hollow trees. This blood goes into the hollow trees, and it brews and bubbles. And
that feeds to the swamp idea too, of the rapid decomposure, that anything that goes and dies in there is just getting sent into the trees. The tree roots are sucking it in to brew it into the wine.
And you could, I suppose you could, if you want to tie it into our House of the Rising Sun thing, you could tie it in by saying, by having that aerial map and saying, I don't guess the roots would have to reach out that far, but it looks like roots, where all of the miasma has gone and then retreated, and gone out and then retreated, because it has to go further and further each time. So it goes further and further out. It starts with just the skeletons of animals being picked clean. Maybe even the new owners of the house have saw this, and they go out. These tendrils go out, and then they come back. And they go out, and then they come back. And it's reached to the cattle first, and then it's reached out further and gone to the gatehouse, and then it reaches out further and goes into the very swamps, until it finds something more substantial, something more sweet, something human. And then it starts to expand that way further. So
Love it.
And because these are aspects of this is an aspect of Hasper trying to come in, you can make this miasma projection, or the swarm, or whatever you want to call it, because it can behave however you need it to. You can make that defeatable. It can have, like Levi's talking about, all the swarm mechanics that it needs to, but and all the weaknesses of the swarm. So it can be manageable. But the trick is with Lovecraftian, Shub-nigguroth, Yog-sothothian type of world building, you usually want to avoid. You want to avoid even having them come. You want to prevent the coming of this being. You don't want to have it come. Or you want to satisfy something about its coming that upsets the ritual or whatever, and make it non-desirable to come. So those, keeping that threat level there can make it more of a horror than if they know they can beat this thing. Why not just let it come and then them whoop on it, type of situation. So having that proper theming and framing would be what you want to tie into that balance of, yes, you can defeat the miasma, but you're wanting to prevent that from happening in the first place. You're wanting to prevent his coming in the first place. He won't come if the wine's not ready or something like that. He'll wait until the cycle returns again or something. So
that is a cool thing with Cthulhu setting too, is that the ultimate beings are not bound by time. They can wait as long as they want. So for the party to just delay things is sufficient, at least short term. Because to the being, it's like, I can wait another couple centuries.
It won't. It's just a minor blip on their schedule type of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
The water just needs a little extra time before they brew tea.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
It'd be exactly like us going to check the teapot, seeing it's not ready, and then leaving the teapot. We don't destroy the teapot because it's not ready yet. We just wait. Because it doesn't matter to us. 2 minutes is not a big deal.
Right.
2 million years isn't a big deal for a being that has lived in the Yog-sothothian type of universe millions of years. So
That's such a cool setting. Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's what we're kind of blending both of our discussion things. So maybe we'll talk about
a little bit.
Maybe we'll talk about another creature and encounter
That's true.
blending this next chat. So you'll get 2 instead of just the 1.
That's true. Or next chat, we could pick a specific interpretation of a bunch of these things and set out, here's an exact plot line that you could potentially use. You can vary it if you want, but if you want one, here's one.
Okay. So
either way, I'm good. Just,
we'll decide when we get there. How about that?
Yeah.
So
Skeletons, death, ultimate doom. Levi's good.
yeah. So incorporating that, let's do final thoughts so that we can kind of keep the chat from going into warning periods.
Infinity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is not dead which cannot lie, that is not dead which cannot die, and with strange aeons even death may die. So
Awesome.
okay, final thoughts, y'all.
Tag you're it, Levi.
What'd you say?
Tag you're it.
Oh, sure. Okay. So, I think to go along with the point you were just making about making these... The goal is prevention because there is no cure.
Fair.
I think when you are designing your encounters and setups with this, think of it as like a puzzle. So have like a couple different ways that they can maybe prevent it in mind. Right? Like things such as interrupting a ritual spot or spoiling the wine. Obviously, better solutions give more time. They're easier to do. That whole... View it as puzzle design. Because the goal for your party is to not have it be a combat encounter. And especially if it's a one-shot, if they fail, like, have a really cool narration ready for how everything dies and goes horribly wrong.
Yeah. So
Like, you don't have to even make a fight. Just narrate. Yeah, you failed. Hi, Haster. Bye, Haster.
yeah, I think that's a good idea for what us to discuss next time. Introducing the encounter, introducing the problem, and here are various solutions. That's a good discussion point for next time. Okay. So yep. All right. Any final thoughts from you, Dan?
No, I think that's... Well, the only thing I'm thinking is be ready. This is a general... And probably most people watching this will know, but general advice is be ready to flex with whatever the party's going to do, because they might come up with very interesting solutions that could either go horribly wrong or horribly right. And the idea of having that, knowing what the ultimate worst ending could be, and being flexible to interpret. Because obviously, especially with Cthulhu, I think there's never a amazing ending. There's rarely. I suppose you could do it, but there's rarely a heroic ending. It's more of a we've staved it off. So being flexible with your ability to have that ultimate bad ending, and based on what the party does, tweaking that a little bit so that there's always that feeling at the end of the game, no matter what's happened, that trouble's still coming later. Something's still there, even if it's far off.
The threat
I don't know.
remains.
Yeah, something like that. If you can maintain that little, so that at the end they're not 100% heroically satisfied. Satisfied in the story, but not like, yeah, we're the heroes, we saved the day. It's like, nope, we gave humanity a few more years.
There you go. And of course,
anyway.
Setting that down in the Louisiana Bayou just makes it all the more nice.
Absolutely. So. Yeah, it's a great setting. I think it's maybe my lack of experience, but I think it's an underutilized setting that I really like, and would, at least in my experience, I haven't done enough in there, and I'd like to do more. So I love all the chats we've had about it so far.
Cool beats. All right. Well, if you guys have made your final remarks, we will say thank you for watching, everyone. We hope you enjoyed. We hope that you will watch the end of Planar Crossroads on YouTube, BitChute, or Rumble. That you will watch Avenue Studios on YouTube or Rumble, and that you will support either one of us on Patreon, or Locals. I also have a Subscribe Star, but Patreon or Locals are just fine if you don't want to do Subscribe Star. I think that's it. Let me see. For those that have watched this far, tell Levi what your favorite pie is down in the comments.
Ooh.
There you go.
That's fair.
Yes.
There you go.
Strawberry rhubarb.
Fair.
So
I recently sold some more wildberry, and I've got an order for at least 4 at Thanksgiving.
Oh, there you go.
4 from one guy.
We better get out of here before we're too hungry. So, as always, have a great day. God bless and enjoy. Bye.
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 This content was made possible by travelers and viewers like you. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Bye. Thank you. I thought it was Jake coming in to join me, but it's not. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Carry on.
Okay.
We have a couple more minutes. This would be a good time to... Do you think that last point you were discussing is what we for sure want to do as the next chat?
Probably. Like introducing, and then introducing the problem, and then having solutions for the problem. So, that
because it is more puzzle. We don't have, like we were saying, like, there's the swarm monsters. We could talk about the different... basically minion types that they'll be facing. It is it's always tough when you're not system specific.
Yeah.
So if we keep those as puzzles, we could mostly have like, hey, here are things the players can do to like avoid them or dodge around them.
Right. Mm-hmm. So you've always got the minions. You've always got madness. You've always got creature corruption is also an option.
Yep.
As well as if that's acting as a portal, other things may come through. So you could have creatures like that. And
that would be cultists. A great minor fail state. Of like, you stopped the big thing, but other things are still coming through.
Yeah. That's interesting. The world's never going to be the same. You did stop final destruction, but...
Yeah, well, it's like, hey, this wine, it was bad enough that Haster doesn't want it anymore, but there's other things who aren't as picky.
It's like the Franzia of wines for him. It's like,
It's like, hey, free wine, my dudes.
Yeah.
And that dude's not gonna knock my head off for trying to go for it.
Right.
Because he doesn't want it. He threw it out.
Yeah. All right, we better get into the next chat, or we'll start discussing it now.
I know, right?
All right. I'm stopping this recording.